Hello, I'm Kenneth Jacobson, wildlife biologist for the Arizona Game and Fish Department. And today, on the special Eagle edition of Arizona Wildlife Views, we'll introduce you to some amazing and dedicated bald eagle nest watchers. Plus, the making of an eagle's nest. It's a lot more complex than you think. And later, a fascinating look at how and why we outfit some eagles with special backpack-style transmitters. All this and more, today on Arizona Wildlife Views.
Arizona Wildlife Views is brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects made possible by the Sport Fish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
This is great. It's a 5-minute bike ride. There's some big wings. There's some big, beautiful wings.
Leah is conserving and protecting Arizona's bald eagles.
Oh, okay. He just left.
So is Eduardo. Yeah. Lindy is too.
It's an awesome job.
They're all part of the 2017 Arizona Bald Eagle Nest Watch program. It's one of a kind with a long history and proven results.
Over the 40 years of the Nest Watch program, there's nearly been 100 bald eagles that they have saved just by being out there and able to identify when they've gotten themselves into life-threatening situations.
My name is Lindy.
DJ Jones.
My name's Courtney. I'm from Wisconsin.
From Bozeman, Montana.
Tucson, Arizona.
Denver, Colorado.
My name is Eduardo. I am from Veracruz, Mexico, and this is my second season as a Nest Watcher.
Nest Watchers come from in and out of state to help Arizona Game and Fish keep an eye on bald eagle nests during the breeding season.
Welcome, everyone. Super excited to get the season started this year. It's an honor to have you guys here. You're a very important part of the overall eagle management program. You're our eyes and ears out there.
Game and Fish biologists Kenneth Jacobson, Kyle Mccarty, and Kurt License are the core of Arizona's bald eagle management program. They get support and guidance from the Southwestern Bald Eagle Management Committee. It's a coalition of federal, state, county, and tribal agencies, along with private businesses and organizations, with a common interest in bald eagle conservation.
It's a little bit of a special year for us. This is the 40th anniversary of the Arizona Bald Eagle Nest Watch program, so it's one of those big years for us.
For the past 4 decades, every year has been big for Arizona's bald eagles.
Back in 1978, when bald eagles were listed as endangered, there was only 11 known breeding areas in Arizona. As of today, we've got 84 breeding areas across the state. Our population is getting bigger each and every year.
And nest watchers are a key part of that success. They don't monitor every breeding area, just a dozen or so in areas with a lot of human activity. Bald eagles build their nests near rivers and lakes, the same places people go to recreate. Hiking, boating, horseback riding, really any human activity can disturb eagles and cause their nesting attempts to fail.
You know, if the eggs are uncovered long enough, they'll get cold, obviously, and they'll be non-viable.
Incubation lasts about 35 days, and even after the eggs hatch, it takes about 3 weeks before an eaglet can control its own body temperature.
It's during that period, if people come in and flush those adults off the nest, that's when failures can happen really quick. It could be just a matter of 5, 10, 15 minutes if birds are flushed off the nest at the wrong time.
That's why these nest watchers are there, to protect nesting bald eagles from natural and human disturbances. The seasonal job takes place in the field, but it starts in the classroom with a 2-day orientation.
We've got a lot of information to cover over the next couple of days.
Information about the bald eagle's life cycle.
The nestlings, when they first hatch, are these just tiny little bobble-headed guys. Around the 5th week, they're really starting to change over into looking like an eagle.
At about 12 weeks, they're ready to fledge, and nest watchers are with them every step of the way. Nest watchers work 10 days on and 4 days off. On weekends, when public recreation is heaviest, they watch the nests from dawn to dusk. On weekdays, they get to explore the area around the nest to find out how the eagles are using their habitat.
There's basically 3 main goals for the Nest Watch program: data collection, education, and conservation. So first of all, let's talk about data collection.
The male just came into the nest, so I'm gonna have to start taking notes about that.
Nest watchers collect all sorts of data.
What adults you see, what they're doing, any nest activity with the chicks.
Flight paths, perches, prey deliveries.
There's a whole section for human activity and the eagle's reaction.
It's all valuable information used to guide future decisions on bald eagle management.
Education.
It's right in here in the scope. You can use that to focus if you need.
You can expect to be talking to people on pretty much a daily basis.
This is a nice view. Not all nests are this easy to see into, and so like these birds, you can see their eyeballs. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Some of these sites have closures, so you'll be talking to folks about closures and where those boundaries are.
Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, Sherry, it's a baby.
Believe it or not, there are still people here in Arizona, residents lived in Arizona their entire lives, have never seen a bald eagle.
I do, I see them.
So they don't get the characteristic white head and white tail until they're 5 years old.
What a treat. Oh, thank you very much.
That's a pretty special moment for them. So that gives us a good opportunity to teach them a little bit about bald eagles, their biology, their sensitivities during the nesting process. Conservation, yes. Having you out there on a daily basis, it gives us a chance to identify when those eaglets, when the nestlings, when the adults get themselves into some sort of life-threatening situation.
And that's a red flag.
The orientation ends with an up-close look at several eagles, courtesy of Liberty Wildlife.
So this is Laddie. She got her name. She came in from you guys.
The nonprofit has treated dozens of bald eagle nestlings that were rescued, thanks to nest watchers who notified Game and Fish when the birds were in trouble. Nest watchers work in teams of 2. They're assigned specific breeding areas with pre-selected campsites and observation points far enough from the nest so they don't disturb the eagles.
It's going to be really hard to top today.
After 2 months on the job, we caught up with Courtney and Peter, who are monitoring the Whiskey Springs breeding area at Lake Pleasant.
It's cool to see where they've been. You know, they like perch right here.
They're standing at the edge of a cliff directly above the nest they've been watching from across the lake.
So the little peninsula out on the corner, we park our tent pretty close to the water.
It's a special day because they're helping Game and Fish band the nestling.
We band the young at 6 weeks old because at this age, they're old enough to handle a little bit of that stress, but they're not old enough that they can fly.
I have never done anything like that before. I mean, holding a large raptor like that was pretty incredible.
Several weeks after the nestling is banded at Lake Pleasant, we visit the Sycamore breeding area on the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation. Leah and Jen have been monitoring this breeding area for the past 7 years.
The big difference here is we have a new male. The male that was here previously was banded. He was 25 years old. A tribal member found his body along the river in January. First year that this area was active was in '97, and he was a 5-year-old male at that time. That's generally when eagles start to breed, is at 5 years old. There were only a few years that they didn't have chicks, so he put a lot of young eagles out into the population, which is awesome.
It's just fun. It's like getting to know somebody, except a bald eagle.
It's pretty easy for nest watchers to become emotionally attached to the eagles they're watching.
Yeah, you walk that line between getting super attached and being objective and just scientific about it.
The one word of advice that I've got, failures do happen. We've had nestlings right at the edge of fledging fly from the nest, and before they hit the ground, there's coyotes already at a dead run heading for that nestling.
The eaglet banded at Lake Pleasant earlier in this story died in the nest only weeks away from fledging.
Found out we had some parasite issues that we'll have to deal with in the future.
Nature can be cruel and unpredictable, but the Nest Watch program gives a handful of eagles a better shot at survival.
The ultimate goal of the program is to produce as many nestlings as possible, as many young bald eagle fledglings taking to the sky at the end of the season.
In 5 years, they'll be raising nestlings of their own. Bald eagles were removed from the endangered species list in 2007, but they're still protected by state and federal law. And while Arizona's population is relatively small, it's growing, thanks in part to the Arizona Bald Eagle Nest Watch program.
Very much a program that's got 40 years of success, and it's that success that keeps it going into the future. I don't think this area is going to work.
Location?
What about straight that way?
Location.
Quarter mile from the lake.
Location.
If we don't find anything better, then we can come back.
It's said to be one of the most important factors when choosing a home. Well, the same can be said about building a bald eagle's nest.
I'm hoping to find that tree that we look at and we're like, all right, this is it. I can see the eagles nesting in this spot.
Tuck Jacobson and Kyle Mccarty are eagle biologists for Arizona Game and Fish.
The branches are still pretty small.
Today, they're at Lynx Lake on the Prescott National Forest, searching for the perfect nesting tree.
It's been more difficult than I expected to find that tree.
They're looking for something that's not too small, not too brittle, and not too close to hiking trails.
We're kind of trying to find that Goldilocks zone. We're looking for that area that has the tree that's tall enough and big enough to support an eagle's nest, but at the same time we want to find that tree in a location that's not on a hiking trail. We're trying to avoid the issues of having to close those trails down.
Closing the area around an eagle's nest is sometimes necessary during breeding season. That's when human activity can flush eagles off their eggs or away from their chicks, and the consequences can be deadly.
I think it would be a good spot to put a platform, bad spot in relation to the trail. We've had a pair of bald eagles nesting here for about 15 years. They've nested in several different nests around the lake, but this last season, all of their nests were blown out of trees in a big storm. The tree they were nesting in actually got blown over. Not much left of it. So at this point, we know the pair is going to have to build a new nest for next year.
It's the perfect opportunity to find a tree that works for eagles and won't interfere with public recreation.
We're getting closer.
Closer.
After several hours of searching, they have some options, but nothing to get really excited about.
We'll keep looking, see if we can find a better option, and hope to have a platform up here in the next month or so.
We're going to be collecting branches and sticks.
7 weeks later, October 20th, the biologists had finally located a tree and were ready to start building a nest with help from the Forest Service.
You look right through here, see that nice big tall tree?
Yeah.
That is it. Oh, this tree is going to be it should be an easy tree to climb. The hard part is going to be standing up there and getting the nest positioned and built. That's what's going to take some time.
So we can use some help, a couple people at least, someone to haul up this nest platform, and then I'll guide it towards you. There you go. Nice. You got full slack. You all right?
Who made these so heavy?
Everything's heavy 80 feet up. So right now, we just got the platform up. He got it situated, and now he just has to find the best supporting branches of the tree to make sure it'll be nice and stable. And then once he finds those, he's gonna take some baling wire, fix it onto the tree, and then whenever it gets to a nice secure position, we'll start stacking sticks up there and building the nest like the birds would.
I like it. I'm ready for sticks.
All right, incoming.
There are no trails near here. There's no recreation uses in the area.
It's time to think like a bird. Get those sticks in right.
Prescott National Forest is very excited to collaborate with the Game and Fish. We've been managing bald eagles at Lynx Lake since the early 2000s when they came in and took over an osprey nest.
They fly all around this area. They've got a nest further upstream from here, or had one. This is an area they're familiar with.
So we're balancing what people want with what wildlife needs.
We have built artificial nests and alternate nests for eagles before, and they have used them. At this point, it's just wait for the eagles to do their part of the job.
Keep our fingers crossed. We're just so excited to be able to provide this opportunity for the eagles to nest and for the recreation to continue.
Unfortunately, they didn't select that site. They built their own right next to the water. Next year, we might get lucky. They might end up using the nest in the spot that we thought was good, or they may continue to use the ones they pick.
This is Diablo Canyon in northern Arizona. These cliff walls are home to one of Arizona's largest raptors, the golden eagle.
Yeah, we've got a couple of golden eagles that have been nesting here. We've been tracking them for the last handful of years, but according to the ranch here, they've had golden eagles in the general area for well over 20 years. In this stretch of canyon that we have here, we've got over 9 different nests that the eagles may choose in any given year. So they've been here for a long time, built up all those nests, and each year they'll pick a different nest to actually lay their eggs in.
But Diablo Canyon is also a popular spot with climbers.
In this area, to our understanding, it's a relatively large group of climbers, 50 to 100 people that would come in and climb with some overlap to the breeding season.
Unfortunately, people and golden eagles don't mix.
Golden eagles are a bit sensitive to people, especially when they're in the vicinity of their nests and they're trying to nest, especially when they're above their nest sites or on the cliff wall of their nest sites. That's extremely disturbing for an eagle that is used to not having anything in their area. In this scenario, the eagles are still here. They're still trying to produce young. It's just that if they're on eggs or they have nestlings and you get a group of climbers that come in, the adults will just leave the area. And it's a hit or miss as to whether or not those young are going to survive until the activity leaves and the adults decide that it's safe to come back.
Kenneth Jacobson is coordinating a cleanup of this part of the canyon, and there is a lot of work to do.
There are a handful of ropes that we're hanging, still attached, so there are some ropes, assuming that they're still there. But the majority of it is we've got bolts in the rock, as well as metal hangers with carabiners, sometimes carabiner chains attached to those. As far as those, that's the main part of what we're after. The ropes will come with everything else, but getting those hangers off and the carabiner chains off so that someone can just show up and be ready to climb. It won't be set up and ready for them. That'll do a lot to dissuade the activity during the breeding season. That wall is where you've got probably 150, maybe 200 anchors. You've got a route probably every 5 feet or so along that wall.
All right, going into space from here. The nut came off easy. Just gonna loosen it and then try to pry. Not moving. It's frustrating finding these out here. It's very obvious that there's a breeding area just over to our right here, and or at least a nest. And this isn't something that climbers typically aren't exposed to. They know that there are closures when they're nesting raptors and birds in an area, so this isn't off their radar, I would imagine, for most climbers. So if you see a nest and you're thinking about putting some bolts or climbing routes up a wall, reconsider, maybe talk to the agency that's managing that area and see if it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, this has turned into quite an effort. We've got a couple hundred bolts and anchors in these cliffs here that we've got to remove, and that's going to be a big task for any crew. Luckily, we have a lot of folks that stepped up to help with this effort, both biologists and climbers from the Arizona Game and Fish Department, as well as the Sheriff's Office and their search and rescue crews are out here helping us, and then, of course, the support from the ranch out here also.
We hope that people will be more conscious whenever they see this, or if they are thinking about putting up climbing routes or recreating in specific areas that may harm wildlife in a certain way, and in this way, golden eagles. We're hoping that they'll think twice, or at least discuss it with the landowners and maybe the nearest wildlife agency.
One down, sir.
Kenneth Jacobson and Kyle Mccarty probably never imagined they'd be climbing trees and wrangling eagles for a living when they were kids. But on this beautiful June morning near Ashurst Lake in Flagstaff, Kenneth and Kyle lead a team of interns and Kenneth's young son Payson in search of a 9-week-old bald eagle nestling high up in a large pine tree.
They're pretty much full grown at this point. Feathers are full grown, their body's full grown. They just don't quite have the muscles to fly yet. Our goal today was to get a hold of that nestling and get a transmitter on it. That transmitter will give us a lifetime of information on it as long as those batteries continue to charge from the sun.
They spot the eagle's nest and begin the climbing process to get to the eaglet. Today, it's Kyle's turn to scale the tree.
Dealing with bald eagles that are 9 weeks of age, that's 50-50 chances to whether or not they're going to stay in that nest. Today, instead of actually jumping from the nest and trying to fly away, this bird went way out onto a branch as far as he could. So Kyle's task was to get that bird to step on a stick so where he could bring him in and get a hold of him there in the nest. Not the easiest thing to do 60 feet up in a tree.
After several tries, Kyle makes the capture. He puts the eaglet in a green canvas bag and sends him down to Kenneth.
This transmitter that we put on him, it's a transmitter that's ran off of the cellular network, but it should give us a GPS location every 15 minutes when it's perched in a stationary location, every 6 seconds as it's flying. So we're going to have very detailed information on this bird, its movements, where it goes, and we'll be able to overlay those movements and that habitat use with projects as we evaluate potential impacts on bald eagle habitats.
While monitoring the bald eagle population is the goal for Game and Fish, it's also part of a partnership with Salt River Project aimed at tracking and protecting eagles.
We're starting to see more bald eagles nesting in the metropolitan Phoenix area. Traditionally, they've been further out by the reservoirs, man-made bodies of water. Now that those areas are utilized already by adult eagles, the new pairs are coming into the metropolitan area, and unfortunately they're showing up in areas where people didn't really think they would show up, and we're trying to adjust and learn to live with them there and also make sure that they are in a safe place in their environment.
When a bird the size of an eagle perches on a utility pole and stretches out its wings, it's possible for it to touch 2 different lines or an energized line in a piece of equipment.
Probably the main concern that you're worried about is electrocution. We've got a growing bald eagle population in Arizona, and as such, they're moving into areas where your power infrastructure wasn't built for a 6-foot eagle wingspan. I think really the important thing about this is We don't put transmitters on birds lightly. We make sure we've got a reason for it and that it'll be a valuable information that's returned. It's the department, the Game and Fish Department's goal to use this data and make sure that it's used in a way that it helps this individual or the greater population as a whole. Well, that does it. Thanks for watching this special Eagle edition. And remember to get out there and enjoy those Arizona wildlife views.